All right, great stuff with Big Man on Campus. Going over to college basketball cards. So Nevada, we're on the Nevada Wolfpack plus the 4.5 points. I told you, yeah, Boise State are great at home, but the Mountain West, the dogs have been barking quite a bit in this conference. And Nevada, we're getting 4.5 points. They're up by 6 right now. It's 35-29. We're at the half. Meanwhile, there's about a minute and 20 seconds left in the first half in Las Vegas right now. UNLV were up big early. Like it was 18-5 at one point. And it's currently 31-28. UNLV are still leading, but San Diego State have cut the lead to 3. And honestly, as somebody that's San Diego State, I was never really panicked about it. But now if you're on UNLV, I think you guys are in trouble. You know what this reminds me of? Even though Baylor were at home last night, we saw it with like Baylor and Texas, right? Texas were winning. Texas are playing great. Baylor goes on a run, and you knew it was inevitable. And what did I say last night? I said, man, not only are Baylor going to come back and win, they might actually cover the point spread against Texas. They did. They came back and they won the game by 8. So, like, if you're San Diego State after the disastrous start, the fact that it's this close, UNLV did just score right now, 33-28. And it's a big basket, actually. There's a little bit of a difference. You know, if you're UNLV, you want to keep a little bit of something, a little bit of a cushion. We'll see if San Diego State can score on their last possession here at the end of the half as we're going into the final seconds. The Phoenix Suns, we told you we thought the Suns were worth a look, so we go to the half. It's 33-28 in Vegas. The Phoenix Suns, we're getting 8.5 points tonight against the Denver Nuggets without Devin Booker. I thought, you know what? I don't like getting in front of Denver, but I said, listen, 8.5 is just too many points. Shout out to everybody joining us on SiriusXM channel 159 on the SportsGrid Radio Networks. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. So the Phoenix Suns are now up by 4 with 5 minutes left. If you think the Nuggets are going to come back and win this game, it's plus 165. Now, we play a daily clip from the Pharrell show, From Coast to Coast. And today, I believe, we had the coach James Young on the show last night. But do we have a clip from the coach? Is today's clip a basketball clip from the coach, James Young?
Here's the thing, Mike. Like, you don't want a part of the playing game, right? Play tournament. So
right.
Now, you are now tied in the loss column with Phoenix. You're 1 ahead of Dallas. You're 3 ahead of the Lakers. 2 ahead of Golden State. Like, why are you messing around with teams? Like, this is what a coach, you got to burn not 1, not 2, but 3 timeouts. And make sure you get yourself to the finish line. That is a bad spot for a team that, let's be honest, folks, Game 7 at home, they absolutely choked. Now, it took a Steph Curry all-time performance to do it, but they still choked. They still have a lot to prove in the loaded Western Conference.
The coach, James Young. The jury is still out on a lot of these young basketball teams right now in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City, Minnesota. I wouldn't say the jury's out on the Denver Nuggets, even though they're losing by 6 right now to the Phoenix Suns. So the Suns are laying 4.5 points right now. The in-game total is 212.5. Meanwhile, the Vancouver Canucks and the LA Kings, we got a really low-scoring game going on here. It's a playoff-style game. Not a surprise. It's 1-0 for the LA Kings still. They scored an early goal, and this has been the only goal of the game. In-game total is currently 3.5. We've got the under 6.5 in this game. There's 4.5 minutes left in the second period of play right now. The surprise of the night, and we talked about this with Andrew McKinnis earlier tonight, was the Dallas Stars and the San Jose Sharks. I didn't pull the trigger, but I was looking. I'm like, damn, the San Jose Sharks are getting 2.5 goals in this game. That's a lot to get. You know, in hockey, there's not a ton of blowouts like this, right? And here we are right now. It's 3-3 in the hockey game. The Dallas Stars were minus 400 favorites in this game. They closed at minus 390. It's 3-3 right now. The in-game total is 9.5. San Jose. It's like McKinnis said, every Tuesday the Sharks play, and he goes, I'm done messing with the Sharks. They always seem to play well when I'm on. And here we are again. You know, we got to live. It's like some sort of trend. You know, the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday nights at home as big dogs have been cashing. So the Vancouver Canucks are down 1-0 right now. They're plus 215 on the money line to come back and win a game. The Canucks did come back on Boston last week when they were down 2-0 and they won a game 3-2. They're really not a great comeback team, Vancouver. Like, they've had a hard time. In the last 2 weeks during their struggles, they often give up the first goal. They're always playing from behind, and they haven't, they're like 2-5 and 1 or whatever in their last 7 or 8. So, can they come back? Yes. Anytime you're getting plus 215 and you're only down a goal, though, I think it's worth a look. The total's 3.5. It's just a little light for us right now. We're going to welcome our AM radio audience here in a second, or in a couple of seconds here. And we got Rick Saratella going to join us, talk some more NFL. Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. It's level 3. Quickest 100 minutes in sports talk and television continues, but we're not done yet. Shout out to everybody who's joining us right now, including the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio, SoCal in the house, and everybody else, Sirius XM Channel 159, along for the ride on the SportsGrid radio and television networks. Been another wild night in the association tonight. The Boston Celtics were up big against an injury-torn and beaten down Cleveland Cavalier basketball team, but the Cavs came back and won the game 105-104. And no matter how good Cleveland play in the regular season, their past failures and Donovan Mitchell's past failures in Utah are used against them like evidence in a court of law. So this is kind of a big impressive win for Cleveland, because they no doubt hear everybody else talking about how they don't think they're the real deal and they're not going to be able to win in the postseason. Victor Wembanyama is the real deal. The San Antonio Spurs took on the Houston Rockets tonight. Victor Wembanyama did not kill it tonight. He had 11 rebounds. He only finished with 10 points. He played 31 minutes, 4 for 10 from the field. So Victor Wembanyama, not up to his standards tonight. For the record, his player prop was 23.5 points. We've got NHL hockey going on right now with the Crypt in Los Angeles, and we've got a goal that has just been scored by the Vancouver Canucks. I was just literally talking about 35 seconds a couple of minutes ago about, hey, the Canucks are only down by 1. You're getting plus 215. In the NHL, we talk about it, like 45% of teams that win games are actually trailing at some point in the game. And for betting purposes, you just get this big-time money all the time when teams are only down a goal. Looks like Pettersson is the one that buried it for the Vancouver Canucks. It was Pettersson coming on the heels of his $12 million contract. Rick Saratella steps up in it. You like football? Good. This is SportsRage. Bring it.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
4.22. The fast man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The Twisted Tuesday continues. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing. Countdown to the National Football League draft is on. The combine is done. Free agency's around the corner. NFL GMs are playing a high-price game of tag right now. Franchise tag. One player that's not going to be franchise tag, Saquon Barkley. It's hard to believe that Saquon Barkley is going to be available and on the market. The second overall pick in the 2018 National Football League draft. Rick Saratella steps up and in, the founder of the NFL Draft Bible, All Access Football, scout with the Edmonton Elks, and more. Rick, it feels like it was just yesterday that Saquon Barkley was drafted second overall, and it's the end of the era right now at MetLife in the Meadowlands.
Yeah, listen, I mean, they said they weren't going to offer Saquon the franchise tag. It wasn't going to work out at $11.1 million, I believe, so they're going to go their separate ways. And I think, Saquon kind of overplayed his card here. I think when, the Giants offered him a lower contract right before training camp initially that they had offered him, a year ago during this time, right? And during that offseason, Saquon could have cashed in. Now he's going to hit the open market in a crowded backfield, so to speak, with Derrick Henry's out there. You got Jacobs from the Raiders is going to be out there. Austin Eckler is going to be available. So now you have Swift from Philadelphia. So now you have all these other running backs, when last year you were the only guy on the block that could have been a game changer at the running back position. Oh, by the way, we got a bunch of good-looking running backs that we saw in Indianapolis coming out for the draft. So I don't even know if Saquon Barkley is going to be able to find $11 million on the open market. I think Christian McCaffrey makes $16 million. When it comes to the New York Football Giants and you have a $40 million quarterback, it's hard to also pay a $20 million running back. I understand the salary cap was raised, but that's still a quarter of your roster being spent on two players.
I can't disagree with that. And I think Saquon Barkley, it's a little Melvin Gordon-ish, although he's obviously not going to end up like Melvin Gordon. But as Rick stated, we never know the exact dollars and cents that were offered, but the Giants supposedly did. We're kind of in like the $13-14 million a year range for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, it was 2 years, $30 million, I think. 2 years, $30 million.
And he was more in the, I want to be paid the same as McCaffrey, right? It was like, no, I want to be the top paid, or at least 1 and 1A. I see myself as that. And now, as you stated, he's going to end up being on the market when it's a flooded market right now. But he is only 27 years old. Let's not kid ourselves. And he's, the question is, where is he going to end up? He can sort of pick, do I want to end up, am I just going to go for the money? to the highest bidder, or am I going to go to where I think is the best fit for me to actually win? And I can't help but think he's going to end up, bro. Like, you just know it writes itself. He's going to end up on the Dallas Cowboys or the Philadelphia Eagles, Rick.
Well, I do not think that Philadelphia will be spending money on a running back. That's not their motto. Dallas is interesting, though, because Tony Pollard, he's another running back. That's
he's another one on the market.
Agent. Right. And so now I don't think they're going to redo Dak Prescott's deal. So I don't know if they have the money to sign a Saquon Barkley, right? That's kind of why they let Ezekiel Elliott go to begin with. They didn't really have the money there.
I think they are, just for the record. I'm not a cap expert and stuff, but from what I understand, actually, Dak is open to working things out, like down the road type deal. He knows he's under pressure, too. He needs to win, so he needs to get some players in there because they blame him every time they lose. So if I'm Dak, I'm like, yeah, I don't care, man. You guys can pay me in 5 years instead of 2 years. Because I'm going to get ripped less this way if there's some other players here, actually. And let's be real, the Cowboys do need some help to get over the top. They don't have enough as it is right now.
No, I think it would be a great fit if they can make sense of it. I just think that Dallas may opt to let Dak go into this lame duck season and play out this final contract and really, put the weight on Dak Prescott. Like, if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs or don't get past the first round, I think McCarthy and Dak might be both out of there.
Yeah, we think that every year. People thought McCarthy would be done after this year, right? Jerry's a very patient man, as he's shown. But I do believe that Saquon Barkley, the Cowboys, and the Eagles will both end up being in the mix. As we stated, I don't know, maybe some other team's going to come out and offer him a sick amount of money. But with all the running backs that are available right now, they're going to have their choice. Not to mention you've got some good backs coming out of Indianapolis now, out of the combine. Speaking of which running backs caught your eye the most in Indianapolis?
Oh, good question. To me, Cedric Benson is still the number one guy. Like, I think that Travis Benson from Florida State. He's the number one guy, 216 pounds. I think he ran a 4.39 40. When you talk about the combination of size, speed, elusiveness in the open field, I really like he's the whole package. And then you got the kid from Tennessee, Jalen Wright, and Marshawn Lynch out of USC, or Marshawn, the running back from USC. Those two guys really turned in the best combine performances. I see them both in the top 100. I don't know if any running back gets taken in the first round. Maybe in that 40 or 50 range, you might see the first running back off the board. I know Jonathan Brooks from Texas is somebody we talked about coming off the ACL. Now, it's pretty remarkable. Like, I think he's already doing some jogging drills and light running. He just had surgery like 3 or 4 months ago, so he's on target to be ready by training camp according to his camp. But I don't think there's a consensus number one running back. Like Blake Corum, his measurables came in almost identical to Austin Eckler, who we mentioned. So it's like San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers. We're doing all kinds of name dancing here. But like, if you're Jim Harbaugh, why in the world would you pay a guy like Austin Eckler when you can draft a guy like Blake Corum in the 3rd or 4th round for a fraction of the cost?
Blake Corum, of course, played for him at Ann Arbor. I don't know if he'll be there in the 3rd or 4th round. Maybe like mid-second, I would expect the running backs to start going in the 2nd round.
Yeah, 5'7" and 6'8". I don't know if a team is going to draft a running back in the 2nd round that's 5'7". I just think he's limited in terms of how many times he's touching the ball. You got bigger backs like Jalen Wright. You got the kid from USC is a bigger back, Marshawn Lloyd. They come in 200-plus pounds. Corum's a well-built, compact running back now. Don't kid yourself, but I just don't know. It's 2nd round, maybe so. There's so many Michigan guys, by the way. I mean, how fun was that? 18 guys. They had the Michigan coach on during the combine coverage talking about it. So, I mean, Michigan, it's like, you start seeing like their backup offensive linemen invited to the combine. Like, like Harbaugh, not only is he recruiting, but developing these players, man. I mean, outstanding job.
Great coaching staff that they had. It's good news, bad news for Michigan. It reflects highly on your program that you have 18 guys at the Combine. Bad news for Sherrod Moore that takes over, that just lost 18 guys that were good enough to be at the NFL Combine. So they lost a lot of talent, but they do a great job. And one thing, too, Michigan, they're not a big NIL sort of powerhouse, right? The players get paid, right? J.J. McCarthy reportedly was in like a little over $1 million last year, but they don't spend. Like they don't spend the same amount of money because they don't want, they're looking for football players that actually want to develop and get to the NFL as opposed to a kid just like looking to become rich right away. And they do a great job developing players. So we're coming up and against the break here. We'll hit J.J. McCarthy on the other side. Speaking of the Michigan Wolverines, his stock has climbed quite a bit. In fact, he's all the way up right now to plus 800 to be the third pick in the National Football League draft, which I don't think is actually crazy in a sense. Like, it wouldn't shock me if he goes ahead of Drake May. I debated this last night with a guest. We'll get your take on this. On the other side, we'll get you guys caught up to date with some of the updated props as far as where players are going to get drafted and up. And we'll hit Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and everybody else in between. The late night anchor management class. This is SportsRage. Bring it.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The Twisted Tuesday continues. This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. We're kicking it with Rick Saratella right now, talking about the NFL draft and combine, NFL free agency around the corner. It's been a wild offseason. It's only going to get crazier as the days go on, as soon as the first dominoes start to fall. But all eyes are on the quarterback situation. So we know that Caleb Williams didn't do anything. Jaden Daniels didn't show up, didn't do anything. And Drake May did not throw the football. So it opened up the door for J.J. McCarthy, for Bo Nix, for Michael Penix to take center stage. J.J. McCarthy has become the media darling since the combine. Every story everywhere is about J.J. this, J.J. that, like it's the first time they've ever seen this kid play before. But I thought Michael Penix actually had a pretty good weekend. And I know that teams were actually very impressed with Penix. Teams that met him, liked him. They liked his size. They liked his strength. They liked his body. They liked the zip on the football. Penix had a very good weekend, didn't he? We'll get to J.J. McCarthy, but Penix actually, for a job interview, he did a damn good job, didn't he?
Yeah, and on top of it, I like guys that like to come out and compete, that aren't afraid of the spotlight, you know? That's what Penix and McCarthy showed to me. And, you know, I was talking to my good buddy Brian Baldinger, who breaks down as much film as anybody I know, and we were talking about Michael Penix. He's like, Rick, you know, I did a deep dive on all these quarterbacks. He's like, I'm telling you, after Caleb Williams, he's like, Michael Penix is the best of the bunch. I said, you know what, Baldy? I said, I've been thinking this the whole time, and I think I've fallen in the media groupthink box where, like, you watch every show, you turn on any channel, and everybody says it's the same four quarterbacks. I'm starting to come around now. I've seen clarity in my life, right? At the Jersey Shore. I went up, I took a walk on the beach, and I got some clarity. Like, it's Michael Penix. Right? Like this guy, what hasn't he done? I mean, he beat Bo Nix twice head to head. The guy was a Heisman finalist. He's the best deep ball thrower. Like, if you're talking about a traditional pocket passer who just sits back, picks apart the defense, reads through his progressions, knows where to go with the football, and shoots lasers, like, come on, guys. To me, I think he's the most consistent, you know, in terms of short, intermediate, and deep ball accuracy. Like, he can make all the throws, and he can do it at a consistent level. Jaden Daniels, great deep ball thrower, not so much in that short to intermediate range. J.J. McCarthy, I believe, can make all the throws, but you got some people out here clowning on him like he can't. And so, you know, to me, Penix is the guy after Caleb Williams. I just think it makes so much sense. But for some reason, you mentioned, like, J.J. McCarthy's the media darling. Like, why isn't Michael Penix? He blew teams away in the team interview process. He went out and lit up Lucas Oil Stadium. He's conquered every big platform and stage he's been on. Like, what else does this guy have to do? I'm going to invite him to Dangerfields over here next weekend.
Listen, I don't automatically always just say that a player is going to end up on a local team, right? Because he's from there or he played there collegiately or whatnot. But Michael Penix to Seattle makes sense to me. They have Geno Smith for another year or so here, right? They extended him. They gave him the bonus, etc. So Geno Smith is back. But, you know, Geno was a stopgap there in Seattle. He's done a nice job post-Russell Wilson for a hell of a lot less money. But without being stated, Michael Penix, man, with those wide receivers, with Metcalf and you know, and Najigba Smith, you know what I mean? They got some guys there, bro, that Penix can, like you said, he can throw the ball. I don't know, like teams, I guess they don't like his age, right? He's had a lot of surgeries. He's not very mobile, Daniels but as you
older,
stated,
isn't he? Yeah, Jaden Daniels is going to be,
I think I'm not as in love with Jaden Daniels as everybody else is. And I'm the same thing, too. Like you said, we all get caught up in this stuff. But I always tell people, I said, people are like, oh, Justin Fields going to end up on Atlanta. I'm like, why? Because the media thinks it makes sense. You project that on Atlanta. It doesn't mean Atlanta likes Justin Fields, right? Because we as the media project. Everyone just locked in, bro. Oh, Drake May's going to be the second quarterback taken. Is he? No. Probably not. No. Like Jaden Daniels might go ahead of him, rightfully or wrongfully so. I think J.J. McCarthy could go ahead of Drake May right now, bro. I think J.J. McCarthy really could be the third quarterback taken in this draft.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think the opinions fluctuate a little bit more on McCarthy. Like, he's another one that's kind of all over the place depending on who you ask. Some people think he's Jimmy Clausen. Some people think he's Jim McMahon. We'll see. I think it depends on where you go. It's funny, like, I was talking about this on another show, the adjustment period from college to the NFL and how much time is needed to make that transition now. And I think, like, the new model, because of the college football offenses kind of now proliferating into the NFL schematics of things, like, you find a guy, you build an offense around him, and you cater it to a skill set, like a CJ Stroud, like a Kyler Murray, like a Brock Purdy. So, like, I don't think there is this transition period. And you could go the Jordan Love approach, like Green Bay has done that with every quarterback. It seems to be successful for them, but I think they're kind of more of the abbreviation or the exception to the modern day patience of the NFL. Like, you're expected to draft a young quarterback, plug and play, and be competitive and turn around the franchise. And if it doesn't work out, well, guess what? You find yourself in the unemployment line, just go see Frank Reich. So that's why,
I couldn't help but to think back when you said C.J. Stroud. J.J. McCarthy played against C.J. Stroud.
And how did that work
McCarthy,
out?
Yeah, J.J. won the game, just saying. Yeah. Michigan won, just for the record.
Right.
What about Bo Nix? One thing about Bo Nix, and I'm not there, but it seems to me, and it doesn't mean anything, I guess, because I think he could be more of a game guy, but he didn't kill the Senior Bowl. He didn't kill the Combine. He's kind of shaky. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like he has his moments, and then I was watching, like I said, he wasn't on the same level as McCarthy and Penix, bro, at the Combine. You could just sort of tell, like, zip of the ball, confidence, just everything. Some throws would be good. Some would be a little bit wobbly. Like, arm strength seemed to be a problem for me for Nix. But like I said, we're not running Combine in the NFL. The guy can drop back and do the quick hit stuff, right? A great example, I want to get your take on it, actually, is the wide receiver Keon Coleman. Is a classic example of that. So he had a slow 40, right? He had a slow 40. He also, in the gauntlet, ran 20 miles an hour when he was running sideways across the field, which was faster than anybody. Like, I don't care that Worthy ran the time that he did, Rick. Like, who cares, bro, like, about this stuff? Let's just be real.
Well, you opened a whole big can of worms and something that's very dear to my heart because, you mentioned Coleman, for example, right? Like, his short shuttle and 3-cone, I don't have it here in front of me, but they were in the elite level. And I think, like, the Combine's so outdated. Let me just get on my pedestal real quick because I'm tracking all these pro days and reaching out to all these colleges. I got over 100 pro days on my calendar, like 25 of which I got to attend, which makes no sense to me because we were just in Indianapolis with the 350 best. Only 250 get drafted, but now I got to spend the entire month of March visiting 100 different schools to go test the other 500 guys. Just makes no sense. Now, the Combine, like Paul Brown and Gil Brandt, like these guys started this stuff like 70 years ago, 40-yard dash times. Well, guess what? We have technology now, guys. We have this miles per hour, catapult, change of direction speed. I mean, all these different measures.
Yeah, I care what your speed is on over 5 yards. I ain't running 40 yards. The NFL is about 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards.
Yeah, and you mentioned the gauntlet drill, though. Like, that's a perfect example of, like, that's going to be an in-game example that I can actually truly compare and translate to. Like, while other guys are diddly-daddling through the drill, this guy's flying like a Lamborghini. Like, come on, baby, let's go, buckle up. Like, that's the kind of guy. That's the guy I want on my team.
Oh, I like him. I like him on the Bills. I think he'd be a perfect fit. Nice big target. Nice big target for Josh Allen. All right, we're up against it right now. We only got a couple of minutes left. Any other thought? One player that stuck out to me a lot, and I was watching a lot, and I was paying attention, is you and I have talked a lot about him, is Jared Verse, though, out of Florida State. This kid drilled it, bro.
Edge rushers,
this kid's like, he's mean, he's crisp. Like, he's like all business. Like, he's like, I'm here to be the best. I'm here to get paid. but I'm here to play football. That guy's a baller, bro.
Verse Chop Robinson, Dallas Turner, they crushed it, and I'm going to tie it back.
That was fun to watch,
York.
those kids competing. I watched that. I watched their group. That was cool. Bro, I never saw that before. The poor kids that were holding the bags were getting hit and stuff. These guys were coming in, man. I was like, dude, I've never seen guys hit the tackling dummies and pads like this before. Boom, bam, bam. They were smoking
man.
it.
I tell you, man, I never seen guys so big and so fast and so physical and strong, man. It's unbelievable. I know we don't have a lot of time. Versus a guy from Albany, and I know you opened it with Saquon Barkley, but keep an eye on the Giants. This is one thing I wanted to tell you is like Giants really control the first domino. If you think about it, I think they have 37, 47, and 70 in this year's draft. So they're the team that can move up to 2 or move up to 3 and make a trade up for the quarterback. The Giants are the team I'm watching.
They're also going to be a team that I think teams are going to be calling because they're going to like the spot that they're in as well. Man, this is just such an unpredictable and wild draft. It's going to be crazy to see how it plays out. Rick, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it,
Rick Saratella. Take it with allaccessfootball.com. Check it out. He's got player rankings and much more up on the board. This is SportsRage. Bring it.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Always great breaking it down with our boy Rick Saratella, All Access Football. Although me and Pat Foster, Master Control, did get a laugh after about Marshawn Lynch. He met Marshawn Lloyd. He came out with Cedric Benson. I was like, Cedric Benson. I was like, am I missing? Is there Cedric Benson Jr.? Is the kid already playing? But he said Travis Benson, but the Marshawn Lynch, Marshawn Lloyd, for the record, out of USC. A story we didn't get to. With Rick. I wanted to bring this up, but who reported it originally? I don't want to throw them under the bus, but who was the one that threw it out there? It was NBC Sports Boston's Phil Perry. Reported on Monday that Jaden Daniels didn't want him to play on the Patriots because of the bad weather, and that they would prefer if Jaden Daniels was taken by a warm weather team as opposed to a team in the Northeast. And I'm thinking, so what? You don't want to go in the top three? Because I hate to break it to you. Chicago, Washington, and Foxborough outside of Boston, those are the teams for the first three picks, bro. So, and I also hate to tell it to you, but there's a lot of cold weather cities in international football you have to play in. Yet, I never, I didn't really bring it up because, to be honest, I don't believe this stuff all the time, right? I don't know where this stuff comes from and how they throw it out there. And and just honestly, and I don't know who Phil Perry is. I've never heard of him before. He might be a legend in Boston. I don't know, with all due respect, if he is. He might be this, he might be that. I don't know. So I'm just stating, how would some dude in Boston know anything about what Jaden Daniels is thinking? I'm just saying, asking. So Jaden Daniels from California, and he played at LSU. So, how would you know what his inner circle, what he is thinking about what team, right? So Jaden Daniels responded tonight to the report. All he said that was all right. Perry admitted he didn't think it would be a concern for the Patriots, but it was report reached social media. Jaden Daniels, quote, tweeted the report with emoji that it was a false alarm. So false alarm. And Daniels called his meeting with the New England Patriots at the scouting combine dope. And the Patriots really wanted to grill the dual threat quarterback about his slight frame as well as the why he transferred. I'm sure, they wanted to grill him about his frame. I'm sure when an NFL team meets someone, they berate someone about their body. Come on, man. Man, there's a lot of stupid stuff out there. So stupid that he had to say it's stupid. I guarantee you, he wants to go as high as possible so he makes as much money as possible. Where is he going to go? I don't know. Like I've been saying, man, this draft, this whole, something's got to happen first, right? When free agency opens, the dominoes will start to fall. Kirk Cousins is the biggest player available, and right now, everybody's got him going to Atlanta. It's funny because 2 weeks ago, everybody had Justin Fields going to Atlanta. Atlanta's not signing every quarterback, guys, right? And I like this one. It's because of the fact that Kirk Cousins' wife is from Atlanta. Now, I paused there because I just sort of think, wow, a lot of players' wives are from a lot of cities. It doesn't mean they sign with that team, or it doesn't mean that team wants to sign that player. But you see what I talk about? The media projects this stuff because, they think it makes sense, right? It's like when you see these stories, NBA trades that make sense. It's it doesn't, it makes sense to you. It doesn't mean it makes sense to the actual team themselves, right? It doesn't mean it makes sense to the player or the agent of the player. Right? There's a lot more that goes into it than just what you think makes sense. So look how Justin Fields has been projected on Atlanta so much. Constantly. Heavy favorites before. Well, Atlanta are the favorites to get Justin Fields right now. Atlanta are also bigger favorites to get Kirk Cousins. You can't get them both, right? And I don't, why? I don't think Atlanta wants Justin Fields. And do they want Kirk Cousins? I don't know. I personally think that they're going to draft a quarterback and that they don't want to pay Kirk Cousins $50 million a year. And they figure, you know what? We can get a quarterback on a rookie deal and still win this division without paying Kirk Cousins all that money. I could be wrong. But as far as the odds are concerned for Kirk Cousins, and, it's not like the market's that big for quarterbacks right now. The whole thing in the NFL now is getting a rookie deal. So you get a good quarterback that's young. You don't have to pay him. And you're able to sign players around him. So, the teams, I don't think teams are lining up to say, yeah, you know what, we want to pay this guy $50 million a year and crush our salary cap, and we're not going to have any money to pay anybody because we're paying Kirk Cousins all this money. Adam Schefter's talking about Kirk Cousins going back to Washington. I personally, listen, they're 20-1 just from a betting perspective. I wanted to bring it up. It's 20-1. Is it impossible? No. If you're Kirk Cousins, why would you want to go back to Washington? But if Washington offers the most money, I guess it would make sense. But it's not like Washington are close to winning. It's not like they have a bunch of good players or anything like that. You know how like the market for Justin Fields is like light and dim? I'm wondering about Kirk Cousins as well. Like, I don't think Kirk Cousins, I don't think 10, put it this way, 10 teams aren't calling him. Like, there's not that many teams that actually want a quarterback or not want to draft one. And how many other teams want to pay Kirk Cousins like massive amounts of money to be there, be the quarterback? So as far as the odds are concerned, anytime anybody becomes a favorite at anything, it's not worth it. And we'll get to Blake Corum in a second. But right now, Kirk Cousins is minus 200 to be an Atlanta Falcon. I've never heard that the Falcons are in love with him. Like I said, I've heard that the Falcons want to draft a young quarterback, that they're not interested in Cousins, they're not interested in Justin Fields, that they like the quarterbacks in the draft. They've got their eyes on guys in the draft, and they want to build their own guy with the core that they have, get their own quarterback and grow together. But, hey, the odds makers have made them minus 200 to go to the Falcons. So that means we can find value elsewhere. I didn't think he'd stay in Minnesota. I'm starting to, maybe he does. Right? Maybe Minnesota says, we're not going to get the guy in the quarter. We're not going to get a quarterback. We know we've got Cousins, whatever. Let's just sign him for a couple of more years and we'll deal with this down the road. The Vikings are plus 130. Like, put it this way. I'd rather bet that he returns to the Vikings at plus 130 than he's a Falcon at minus 200. The Steelers, there's been all kinds of media reports out of Pittsburgh in the last couple of days that the Steelers are not interested in all these quarterbacks, that they just drafted Kenny Pickett, that they don't think Kenny Pickett's gotten a full chance yet. He hasn't stayed healthy, etc., that, they're going to give Kenny Pickett another shot. It could be a bluff, but Kirk Cousins ain't going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I'm just looking at the odds here. The Falcons are minus 200. The Vikings are plus 130. The Raiders are 10-1. The Raiders make the most sense. Just point blank. The Raiders make the most sense. It's an ideal situation if you're a player. There's no tax in Nevada either, right? It's like Texas. So you've got a favorable situation as far as the tax is concerned. It's a cool place to live. It's a cool team to play for. The Raiders, the facilities are first class. Like, Like, we just talked about the NFLPA poll and stuff. The Raiders got high marks. Everything is pretty much brand new. It's all first class. They just didn't like Josh McDaniels, right? They've got talent on the football team. And the last thing is, most importantly, is the Raiders have money. They got a break by Jimmy G failing the drug test. So they're not on the hook for the money. They could actually pay him. You've got Devontae Adams, right? Like, it makes sense. And it makes sense for all parties, where they have the money, they need a quarterback. I think the Raiders like Aiden O'Connell, though. I don't know if they, I don't know if deep down inside they know he's not really the guy, but, they kind of do like him. I think they do like him for real. He was a rookie. Now in his second year, players, improve a lot. But it does make sense. It's 10-1 that he goes to the Raiders. The Patriots are 14-1. They're sort of the wild card in this. Like, what if the Patriots only like one or two of the quarterbacks and they can't move up because the other teams are doing it? And they don't like they feel their hand forced. They're not just going to take a quarterback for the sake of it just because, we have the third pick. So, do the Patriots go the free agency route? Do the Patriots go Justin Fields? Do they sort of think outside the box and say, you know what? We could trade for Fields and then use the third overall pick and draft like another player. Or we could sign Kirk Cousins and still have the third pick in the draft and get a good high-impact player, get Marvin Harrison, right? Like, the Patriots are sort of a wild card in this. The Commanders are 20-1 to get Kirk Cousins. And then, the other teams, I'm not buying in. I mean, San Francisco, no. Tennessee, I don't think in Tennessee, no. Tampa, no. New York Giants, no. Seattle Seahawks, no. So how many teams really are like lining up for Kirk Cousins? I'm not saying nobody will offer him a deal, but those are the odds for Kirk Cousins. I brought up Blake Corum, and me and Rick were talking about him. Listen, he's not the biggest back and stuff, but he showed his durability at Michigan. But this is where it's interesting, where the perception causes the line to be what it is. Blake Corum is plus 170 to get drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers. The drop-off is so big after that. It goes to the Dallas Cowboys at plus 900. The Minnesota Vikings plus 900. The Baltimore Ravens 12-1. The Packers 12-1. The Texans 14-1. The Eagles 14-1. As it should be. It's kind of a crapshoot. We're talking about a player that's going to go in the second, third round. Rick said third or fourth. I said second or third. But it's insane that the Chargers would be plus 170 solely due to the fact that he played for Harbaugh at Michigan. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Like, these numbers aren't sort of like algorithm numbers. They're not simulation numbers. They're not computer numbers. Draft numbers are whacked. The sports books don't really know, right? So they're sort of at the mercy of the media reports and or sort of fake logic. Okay, fine. Harbaugh might want Blake Corum on his team. It doesn't mean it's a slam dunk at plus 170. That's like the lowest odds for any player to get drafted on any team. Plus 170. Come on. We know they ain't taking them with the fifth pick in the draft.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Athletes in Canada, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, no longer can be part of these sports betting ads.
Now, what's interesting is there is technically a carve-out that will still let these athletes and celebrities appear in sportsbook ads, but it's only if those ads are slanted toward responsible gaming. So you could still have a Connor McDavid saying, hey, bet responsibly on TV in Ontario.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
4.22, the fastest man alive.
The guy just made himself a whole lot of money, did he not? By now holding the record for the fastest 40-yard dash. But if it's one thing we know is that doesn't translate into quality football players in the NFL. So somebody will bite and overdraft him because he simply ran faster than everyone else. It's just rinse and repeat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It looks like UNLV is on the verge of pulling off, honestly, one of their biggest wins in a long time if they win this game. Like, they're seriously, like, UNLV are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're only lost to Nevada. They've been playing good basketball, but we talked about them. You know, this is a step up in class to beat San Diego State. This would be a massive, big-time win for the UNLV Running Rebel program. They haven't beaten San Diego State since 2020. I'm going down here. I'm on the Aztecs. I didn't believe in the Running Rebels tonight. Aztecs losing right now by 7 with 3.5 minutes left. It's 56-49. We do have Nevada, though. So it's a Mountain West split. We're on Nevada plus 4.5 points, sort of on a gut feel pick before tip-off tonight. So we took the Wolfpack. They're winning by 13. They're winning the game outright. It's 61-48 with 5 minutes left, 5:51 to be exact. They're in control. They've been in control pretty much all night of this game. NHL hockey. The Vancouver Canucks and Los Angeles Kings are tied at 1 right now with 5.5 minutes left in this game. I put a play in just during the commercial break. Will the game go to overtime? I had to lay some juice to do it. It was minus 170, minus 175. Minus 170, minus 175, whatever, for the game to go to overtime. I did. It was like 6.5 minutes left. Now there's 5.5 left. It just feels at this point, we talk about it all the time in the NHL. You know you're getting a point if the game goes to overtime. So both teams sort of go into a little bit of, all right, a little bit of a shell. We both would get a point if we just don't score on each other in the next 5 minutes. And then whatever happens in overtime, and one of us will end up winning the game. Not to say that LA aren't trying to score, Vancouver aren't trying to score, but it feels like it's going to go to overtime. And I'm always doomed. We always lose. So for the record, I'm on Vancouver if it goes to overtime. If you want to take LA, we are on the under, though, 6.5 in this game, and it's about to hit. Great job by our crew tonight. Thanks to all of our guests. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.